Imagine standing on a shoreline and watching a wave taller than a 50-story skyscraper racing straight toward you. It sounds like something from a Hollywood disaster movie, but it actually happened. When people think of tsunamis, they usually remember the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami or the 2011 Japan tsunami. Those disasters changed history and were covered around the world, but they weren't the only terrifying waves our planet has ever produced. Today, we're looking at 5 tsunami disasters that most people have never heard of. Some were triggered by earthquakes, others happened because of human mistakes. Every one of these events changed science, engineering, or the way we prepare for future disasters. By the end of this video, you'll discover which one created the largest wave ever recorded on Earth. Let's begin. Number 5. Lituya Bay Megatsunami. On the night of July 9, 1958, Lituya Bay in southeastern Alaska looked completely peaceful. 3 fishing boats floated quietly in the bay while their crews enjoyed a normal evening. Then, at around 10:15 p.m., everything changed. A powerful earthquake, estimated between 7.8 and 8.3 magnitude, struck along the Fairweather Fault, but the earthquake itself wasn't the biggest danger. The violent shaking caused nearly 90 million tons of rock to break loose from a nearby mountain and crash into the bay. The impact launched an enormous wall of water into the air with unbelievable force. The wave stripped every tree and every bit of vegetation from the opposite mountainside, reaching an incredible 1,620 feet or 524 meters above sea level. To put that into perspective, that's taller than the Empire State Building. It remains the largest wave ever recorded in human history. Only 6 people were inside the bay that night. 2 lost their lives. The other 4 survived almost miraculously as their fishing boats were lifted by the giant wave and carried over it before being pushed safely toward the bay's exit. One survivor later described watching the glacier shake before the mountain collapsed into the water. He said it looked as though the entire landscape had suddenly come alive. Scientists later created a new term for disasters like this megatsunami. Unlike ordinary tsunamis that travel across entire oceans after underwater earthquakes, megatsunamis are often triggered by massive landslides crashing into enclosed bodies of water, producing waves far taller than normal tsunamis. Fortunately, Lituya Bay is extremely remote. Had a wave this size struck a major coastal city, the destruction would have been almost unimaginable. Number 4. Vajont Dam Disaster. The next disaster wasn't caused by nature alone. It was made far worse by human decisions. On October 9, 1963, the small Italian town of Longarone sat beneath a towering Vajont Dam, one of the tallest dams ever built. For months, engineers and geologists had noticed that the nearby mountain, Monte Toc, was slowly becoming unstable. Warnings were issued, concerns were raised, but the reservoir remained open. At 10:39 p.m., disaster struck. Around 260 million cubic meters of rock and earth suddenly broke away from the mountain and crashed into the reservoir. The impact forced a massive wave over the top of the dam, rising as high as 250 meters before crashing into the valley below. The shocking part, the dam never collapsed. Instead, the water simply went over it. In less than a minute, Longarone and several nearby villages were almost completely destroyed. Nearly 2,000 people lost their lives. Many experts later compared the force of the water to the destructive power of a small atomic explosion. Today, the Vajont Dam still stands almost untouched. It serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes disasters don't happen because engineering fails. They happen because warnings are ignored. The Vajont tragedy is now studied around the world as one of history's greatest engineering lessons. Number 3. Grand Banks Tsunami. On November 18, 1929, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck beneath the Atlantic Ocean near Newfoundland, Canada. At first, it didn't seem particularly devastating. People felt the shaking, but damage on land appeared limited. Hidden beneath the ocean, however, an enormous underwater landslide had already begun. As millions of tons of mud and sediment rushed across the seafloor, something unusual happened. The transatlantic telegraph cables connecting North America and Europe began snapping, one after another. For nearly 13 hours, communication lines failed in sequence across hundreds of kilometers. Meanwhile, along Newfoundland's Burin Peninsula, the sea suddenly rushed away from the shoreline before returning as a destructive tsunami. Fishing villages were devastated. Homes disappeared. Boats were thrown inland. At least 28 people were killed. For years, scientists couldn't fully explain what had happened beneath the ocean. Decades later, researchers analyzed the exact moments each underwater cable had broken. Those timestamps allowed them to reconstruct the path of the underwater landslide and led to the discovery of turbidity current fast-moving underwater avalanches capable of traveling enormous distances. This disaster didn't just change lives, it transformed our understanding of the deep ocean and remains one of the greatest scientific detective stories ever solved. Number 2. Great Yaeyama Tsunami. More than 2 centuries earlier, another devastating tsunami struck the Ryukyu Islands of Japan. On the morning of April 24, 1771, a powerful offshore earthquake shook the region near Ishigaki Island. Within minutes, enormous waves estimated at over 30 meters high slammed into the coastline. Entire villages vanished beneath the water. Farmland was destroyed. Thousands of homes disappeared. By the end of the disaster, more than 13,000 people had died, wiping out nearly 1/3 of the local population. Survivors were forced to abandon their homes and rebuild farther inland. One incredible reminder of this disaster still exists today. A giant coral boulder known as the Bari Zone, weighing around 216 tons, sits far inland from the shoreline. Scientists believe the tsunami lifted the massive rock from the seafloor and threw it onto land. More than 250 years later, it remains exactly where the wave left it. For local communities, the stone isn't just a geological curiosity. It's a permanent warning about the incredible power of the ocean and a reminder passed down through generations.
Number 1. Papua New Guinea Tsunami.
Our final story takes us to July 17, 1998. Along the northern coast of Papua New Guinea, families in small fishing villages were enjoying a quiet evening when a 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck offshore. The shaking wasn't especially severe. Most people believed the danger had already passed, but beneath the ocean, the earthquake had triggered a massive underwater landslide. Between 10 and 25 minutes later, 3 tsunami waves slammed into the coastline. The second wave, reaching 10 to 15 meters high, caused the greatest destruction. Entire villages were erased. Homes, schools, churches, and fishing boats disappeared almost instantly. Even reinforced concrete buildings suffered catastrophic damage. More than 2,100 people were killed, making it one of the deadliest natural disasters in Papua New Guinea's history. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part was that there wasn't enough time or enough warning to evacuate. The tragedy exposed major weaknesses in regional tsunami detection systems. In response, many Pacific nations invested in faster warning networks, improved coastal monitoring, and better emergency evacuation plans. The lessons learned from this disaster continue to save lives today. These 5 disasters prove one unforgettable truth: the ocean is capable of extraordinary power. Whether it was the record-breaking mega tsunami at Lituya Bay, the preventable tragedy at Vajont Dam, the scientific mystery beneath the Grand Banks, the ancient devastation of Yaeyama, or the heartbreaking loss in Papua New Guinea, every one of these events changed the world. Some reshaped engineering, others transformed tsunami science, and several directly inspired the warning systems that now protect millions of people living along vulnerable coastlines. Even today, scientists continue monitoring underwater fault lines, unstable slopes, and seismic activity because no one knows where the next major tsunami will strike. Only that someday it will. Which of these 5 disasters shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy forgotten disasters, hidden history, and unbelievable true stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.